Hey homies, Myra here. Just a heads up, this episode is sensitive. It gets into topics like suicide and some references to self-harm. So take care while watching or listening.
I've always been very curious about food and the spiritual nature of nourishment and what it means. Only because despite humanity's advancements in AI and technology, ingesting food and eating is something we'll never evolve past, right?
This is Joseph Awuah-Darko, and we are in Amsterdam in a hotel, eating my best attempt at an American black soul food dish using all Dutch ingredients. Well, save for the Louisiana hot sauce I brought on the plane. And dinners are really important to Joseph. Here's the deal. Joseph contains multitudes. He's a Ghanaian sculptor, model, painter, and musician. In 2019, he was named as one of Forbes' Africa's 30 Under 30 creatives. And he loves meeting people from all walks of life over food.
The sun is bright as my hopes and fears are here to stay.
Like so many of the people I'm drawn to on this show, he's an incredibly vulnerable, talented, and complex human. Like these dinners, like the one we're having. Well, for Joseph, they mean so much more than just breaking bread. That's because on December 6th of last year, after a lengthy struggle with what he names as treatment-resistant bipolar disorder, Joseph announced on Instagram that he was seeking to end his life through what in the Netherlands is called termination of life on request, or euthanasia. The Netherlands is one of the only 5 countries where that process for psychiatric conditions is legal.
I moved to the Netherlands to legally end my life.
That announcement shook the internet. Joseph's followers have reacted with every emotion from shock to disgust, commiseration to fascination. All in all, it's been a little bit like one of those stories you feel like you should look away from, but you can't stop watching. Mainly because, shouldn't this be private? But also, thank God it's not. Shouldn't we be having conversations about mental health and death more? These days, Joseph has more than 550,000 followers on Instagram, and I think people are intrigued because Joseph has turned what could otherwise be a pretty morbid conversation into something much more. A project he's named the Last Supper Project, which sounds like what it is. While Joseph awaits approval for his death, he's dining with strangers. He's hoping to have more than 180 dinners in total, and as I record this, he's on dinner 140. And the dinners, they're an event. Joseph has been invited to dine in Paris, London, Australia. He's had Indonesian food, Turkish, Romanian food, and had 2 Bedouin sisters fly over 3,000 miles to cook and spend time with him. He even attends some of his dinners virtually. All in all, he's had more than 4,000 dinner invitations from strangers all around the world. Strangers like me. But I'm interested in Joseph for reasons other than the shock circling big words like death. I want to dive right into this picture of what people assume about people like him. People suffering from a mental illness. People who don't want to be alive anymore. That they're irrational. That they want a way out. That they can't be helped. Or that they want attention. Bipolar disorder in particular has this stigma that folks struggling with it don't always know what's best for them, or that they aren't emotionally clear. So yeah, we're going to talk about some of that. And then, in true Homegoings fashion, we're going to go deeper, because I have questions that complicate the complicated ones. Questions like, what if he isn't approved? Last year, just under 10,000 people in the Netherlands completed the process and ended their lives. And 219 of them died for psychiatric reasons. By the way, in 2010, that number was only 2. This isn't like easy to do. Joseph doesn't have a date scheduled for his death. So I wonder, what if he changes his mind during this period of waiting? There's so much hype around his decision now. Does he feel obligated to go through with this? And what about his critics? And people who say he's trying to divert attention from legal troubles? And then there's the big question that's been burning in my belly for a while now. One I've wanted to go back and ask pretty much every person I've known who has died by suicide, which is, was this your only option? So, in April, I decided to go to Amsterdam to ask him some questions that feel like both none of my business and absolutely all of our business at the same time. I wanted to meet him where he's at, cook him one of those suppers, and regardless of whether or not it's actually one of his last suppers, I wanted to just take a minute of his potentially incredibly precious time to listen, to understand, and of course, to take a minute to eat, please.
Yes, this is so good.
From Vermont Public, this is Homegoings, a show that invites you to eavesdrop on candid conversations with people who will challenge what you think you know. I'm Myra Flynn, and today a conversation with Joseph Awuah-Darko, a 28-year-old Ghanaian artist who moved to Amsterdam seeking euthanasia amid a long struggle with bipolar disorder. Joseph has been documenting his journey on Instagram and Substack, building a community around his Last Supper project. He's sharing meals and life with people from all corners of the world, including us. This is his journey, and this is Homegoings. We're a proud member of the NPR network. Welcome home. This project that you're up to came on my radar, only had, a few followers, and then it just kind of exploded. So, but still, there's some folks who might not know what's going on. What are you doing here in the Netherlands?
It's a very layered question. I came to the Netherlands firstly because I wanted to exist authentically as a gay man, and secondly as somebody who has struggled with chronic mental disorders, of which the diagnosed one of which I have is bipolar disorder. When I was 16, I felt that finding non-violent solutions to deal with my treatment-resistant bipolar disorder, the best solution would be here in a place like the Netherlands, where medically assisted death is legal. And I want to make something very clear. I appreciate, acknowledge, and celebrate people who are able to live with their chronic mental disorders, whether it's schizophrenia, whether it's bipolar disorder, whether it's psychosis, whether it's borderline personality disorder, whatever on the spectrum. I really think it's beautiful. And what I've always believed in is the right to choose,
If you want to live or die.
Yes, the right to choose if you want to pursue that path. I mean, you don't choose ultimately. You have to be approved for euthanasia, right? It's not something that so whenever I see in my comment section, because again, I understand that ignorance is in high demand. And also one thing that my presence on social media has taught me is that very few people actively engage in critical thinking or basic comprehension skills. But that, and I mean that in the most earnest way, But that aside, I think that whenever people ask, so when am I choosing a date? It's an oxymoron. I can't choose a date. A GP and a specialist have to approve my desire to pursue euthanasia. I can't.
Right, it's a process.
It's a process,
yes,
exactly.
Yes.
And it's also another misconception. Euthanasia, and I know people won't get this in their head because I've said it so many times, but I'm happy to repeat it. Euthanasia is preventative. I'm going to say it again. Euthanasia is preventative. It is not a phone call, an appointment, and an injection. It's a process by which you go through a series of, once you qualify, I am still yet to qualify as I don't yet have Dutch health insurance, but once you qualify, not yet, but once one does qualify and formally applies, you will go through a long bureaucratic series of evaluations and reviews. And guess what? There's a waiting list. There's a wait period to be evaluated and assessed.
So even then,
right? I have heard and personally spoken to people who have been on wait lists for 13 months. I've spoken to people who've been on wait lists for 2 years. Because sometimes a prerequisite to properly being approved for euthanasia is to be formally diagnosed with something.
Of course.
Right?
Yeah. I mean, also, whether that's, from my research, whether that's a physical ailment or, as in the case here, can be a mental one, but which can be harder to diagnose, right?
Yes. Yeah. So whether it's a physical ailment or a mental ailment, and I don't put those two on higher or lower pedestals, I think it's both equal. You have to, there is a wait period to see a specialist if you're going through the public system, if you can't afford, which is most people, private assessments. There are wait periods that take at least minimum 9 months and at maximum 2 to 3 years. So it's not a fast process. There is time to smell the roses and see if this is really something that you want to pursue. And I've spoken to people who have started the process and stopped.
Yeah, so you're 28. I feel like for some of those watching right now, that's a pretty alarmingly young number.
Yeah. I'm not the youngest person pursuing this, despite the fact that I am young. Sometimes I do get a bit fatigued by the sensationalism or the attempt to sensationalize. And don't get me wrong, I understand that journalists have a job. I understand that media corporations, be it independent or legacy media, have an agenda to maximize and optimize on clicks. We live in late state capitalism. I get, it doesn't matter how much a journalist smiles at me. I know with as much integrity
that they have a job.
That they have a job.
We have a job.
Right? And that I'm a source, amongst other things, in that context. And so I really try and, I think what I'm also trying to do is protect my peace as I navigate what is a very personal decision. And the only reason why I want to do interviews is because I want to be a part of the critical destigmatization of what it means to speak about chronic mental disorders and suicide.
Right.
Statistically, over 300,000 people have ended their lives violently this year. We aren't even halfway into 2025. This includes one of my dear friends in the UK over 8 weeks ago.
I'm sorry for that.
Yeah, it was kind of complicated. This includes one of my favorite indie film directors, Jeff Boehner, Aubrey Plaza's husband. This includes quite a few people, the thousands of people who trauma dump in my DMs and in my comment sections because my Instagram has become this weird safe space to do that. Which is something I've even had to sort of try and create a boundary around in my mind. But suicide is all around us. But it seems to be something that I find not only in African cultures, but in South Asian cultures, in cultures and parts of Britain where there's lots of stoicism, in parts of the African American community, is not spoken about. And my only job, the reason why I care to come and speak to any journalist, knowing the agenda that they have, is for my agenda to normalize these discussions at the risk and detriment of being perceived as doing this for clout or for attention. I mean, those who say I'm doing this for attention are right. It's attention for a cause dear to my heart. So that's why. Yes, it is for attention in that regard. But I don't really care to profile myself in the context of pursuing assisted euthanasia because I am more than that as a person. And at the end of the day, I only want to be a vessel for others to have that discussion as well.
After the murder of George Floyd in America, folks were having a really hard time seeing Black people as human beings once again. There's such an expectation to be resilient. It's almost a very naughty word at this point, a very dangerous word.
Yeah.
And so I've always, wanted to dig into some of the ways in which we are not monolithic in how we think about life and death, right?
Of course.
Which makes you so interesting. But then there's also this thing where people have kind of there's a trauma porn going on also about Black pain and the Black gaze. So I guess like, have you been experiencing that divide, I guess, in your own, like, I want to put this out there, but also just like, are people going to care about me if I'm not talking about death and all these other things? Like, you know,
I had a German Ghanaian friend who I'm no longer speaking to, who told me that, to my face at a lovely pub in Amsterdam that, you know, and I'm gonna try and imitate his broken English. I mean, very sweet guy. I think he speaks more German than he does English. But he said, we Blacks don't get depression. Like, we've been through slavery. We've been through so many things, speaking to your resilience, of course.
Yes. The R word.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which I do think is also quite pornographic, resilience. But that's a different conversation. Because resilience speaks to this idea of being a shock absorber for humanity. As Black women are expected to be in so many cases.
That's our whole job.
Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
But going back to that anecdote, I got up from the table and left. That was the end of our friendship.
You didn't say anything?
No.
Did he try to reach out to you?
No. I wrote about it on Substack. I mean, and it sort of begs the question, then was he really a friend? I mean, I didn't, I realized that two things can be true at the same time. He's a wonderful person, right? And we're on a different wavelength when it comes to showing compassion for people of our skin tone who are going through mental health issues. And there's a difference between boosting someone's energy by trying to give them some encouragement and some zeal to keep going, right, and just gaslighting someone straight up from a very
you're saying your experience,
exactly,
and he's saying no.
It's a complete block.
You're like, this isn't up for debate.
Exactly,
this is my experience. Yeah,
and so that's something that I definitely have struggled with, like trauma porn. In one instance, it's important to highlight these very horrific and real things that have happened throughout our history.
Right.
But on another hand, it seems like within museums all over the world, be it the MoMA, be it the Frick, be it the Tate,
we're all hanging and dead and
like,
shackles.
be it any of those museums within a largely white contemporary art world.
Correct.
It is what it is, for better or for worse. That there seems to be a demand for that in some capacity.
Right.
That can be problematic, but I do think that when it comes to the Last Supper project, it's also been about a huge celebration of life and being in the present. My page has been as much about celebrating the precious nature of time and who we spend it with and how we nourish each other, as well as it has been about the gruesome horrors of living with a chronic mental disorder, with bipolar disorder, in my case. But I think that because the human brain has negativity bias, which has been scientifically proven, negativity bias is the reason why you can see 100 amazing positive comments, but focus on the 3 nastiest ones. Because the brain has, fight or flight, negativity bias. I think people like to jump to the lazy conclusion that my page glamorizes suicide as opposed to celebrates what it means to be alive.
Yeah.
And to connect with people at a really meaningful level through food.
I've already read a million people ask you, are you concerned about romanticizing suicide?
Yeah.
And I've already read your response, which is, of course, like, no, and very much in line with what you've just said about the celebration of life.
Yeah.
But then recently I saw, a mother who was kind of begging you on Instagram to please stop posting this.
Yeah.
Please stop doing this. My daughter has depression. She's young. She's kind of like being encouraged in this direction, so would you take it down?
Yeah.
And I think you put like a poll up on Instagram to see if your audience wanted you to stop sharing this vulnerability or keep it going.
Yeah.
And I was surprised to see like overwhelmingly so many people wanted you to keep going, to keep sharing.
Yeah.
Well, I guess like first question to me though is like, do you worry about her daughter?
So I worry about everybody who is navigating chronic mental disorders. So I worry about that woman's daughter.
Right.
I worry about my friends. I worry about strangers who tell me about wanting to know about my process, or which I never respond because I'm doing this, every time a journalist asks me in a pre-interview that, so, Joseph, so what are the stages? What are the stages? Like,
I love your journalist voice, by the way. Is that what we sound like?
No, but you all sound so well intentioned. But it's like
Yeah.
a journalist will ask me on the phone, oh, I'm speaking to my editor, I'm speaking to my producer, but also just tell me, like, where are you at? What are the stages? And they all feel a bit silly because I end up responding and saying, I'm doing this for the first time. Like that the weird novelty and attention I've received for opening up about my decision to pursue this doesn't make me an expert. That this is my first time exploring this. And so, no, I can't give you the Jackson 5 ABC of what it means to go through medically assisted death. It's my first time. And they all come to this conclusion like, oh yeah, you're right. But it's true. I don't claim to be an expert.
Well, we should be able to Google that anyway as journalists,
right?
Like what the process is.
It's also a very personal question to ask somebody. It doesn't matter how transparent or vulnerable I'm being in the open scrapbook that is my Instagram. It's almost like asking, God forgive me, but it's almost like asking someone who is transgender or transitioning,
where are you at?
Where they're at in their process. And I think that once I create that parallel, it makes more sense, because you can't ask somebody that, not really, But I think that because people feel as if
well, you can ask somebody about their transition and where they're at, but I understand that the answer is personal.
How do I say this? You can ask them, but only if they feel safe.
Maybe there's an assumption of safety though, because you do share so much.
Yeah, but I still think that, it's dehumanizing.
Yeah.
I share what I choose to share.
Right, that's up to you.
Right?
Yeah.
I'm not sharing because I have a gun to my head or somebody's interrogating me or asking me questions. That's voluntary. It's still different when somebody's like sort of imposing that question on you. Like, if there wasn't any bureaucracy and you had Dutch health insurance and you qualified for assisted euthanasia and could have the injection tomorrow, would you do it?
Wow.
That was the question she asked me. And quite frankly,
that's intense.
That's very intense.
Yeah.
And again, journalism, but I understand why she did that. But it was re-triggering.
Right.
It's like choosing to be vulnerable and being put in a position where I almost feel cornered. It does sometimes make me wonder if talking about it is doing me more of a disservice than is helping normalize these discussions.
Like doing you personally.
Yeah, personally, as somebody who still has to, despite the responsibility I've taken on to normalize these discussions, a responsibility that I know no one gave me, but I've chosen to take upon myself. I do have to achieve the balance, right?
Yeah.
And so for me, that has been a complex duality in my mind the entire time.
One of the questions I had when I first met you in our pre-interview, like the first thing out of your mouth was like, I'm not special. Like there are so many people who have decided to do this. And you seemed really surprised by the attention that you were getting, even though you're using it, on purpose to shine this light.
Yeah.
But I did a little research on exactly how not special you are. Okay, so according to the Regional Euthanasia Review Committee, the number of people in the Netherlands who have died by assisted suicide has increased by 10% as of last year.
Wow.
That's a very big number. So that's gone from, that's like nearly 10,000 people choosing to die by assisted suicide. And the majority of the people, 80% of those people, a little more than 80%, are choosing this because of some physical ailment. So they have cancer, they're stage 4, they're not able to keep going, right?
Yeah.
But only 219 people have been granted death in this way due to a mental illness, right? Or a mental disorder or something that isn't physical, right?
Yeah.
And so I guess my point is like, you are special. Like you are doing something that is unique, right? You are choosing to die in a small group of only a handful of people have been granted this.
But let me say that only a handful of people have been granted.
Right.
But not everyone who applies is approved.
Right, exactly.
But I think the audience and you understand that, what that means as far as the number of zeros to add. When I say I'm not special, this is what I mean. Since we're talking numbers, as I've already said in this interview, over 300,000 people have violently ended their lives. Let's just sit with that.
What do you consider a violent ending compared to a non-violent? Like,
I just mean they have taken their own lives not through euthanasia.
I see.
So my logic, which might be erroneous, but humor me here. My logic is that anyone who dies not by assisted euthanasia has ended their lives violently.
Okay.
I don't know if you know other approaches which not through euthanasia, which are non-violent. Do we know?
I'm thinking about this so much. I'm trying to think. Like I've lost quite a few folks in my life to suicide. More than I'd like.
Yeah.
It's in my family, and I don't know if they would have thought that it was violent. I wonder if they would have thought this was the best way to do it. You know?
But when I say violent, I mean in almost an objective capacity. So like. Can you name or think about not even 2 or 3 or 4, just one way of ending one's life that is not violent?
Maybe not, right? But like because it's all very, very, no matter how it's done, it's all very different to like what my brain can like wrap around.
But I think when we say violence, we mean they suffered before they died.
Got it. Yeah. Okay, that's the answer.
Yeah,
that's what you mean by violence.
Yeah, that's my litmus test for what violent means. And so that number is a statistic that I have almost joined as somebody who has attempted in the past, right? And I've documented that.
Yeah.
So this is also not my first rodeo. This is not my first time coming to terms with wanting to end my life.
Right.
This is my first time speaking about it in that capacity.
Okay.
And talking about it in the context of doing it non-violently through medically assisted death.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I say I'm not special, I'm talking about that number, the over 300,000 people who have ended their lives in 2025. Let's not add the previous year or the year before that, but just this year alone, which is alarming. And again, the larger number, which is the 900 million of us, 1 in 8 people living with some sort of mental disorder.
Right.
So that's what I mean when I say I'm not special. I mean that, and also let's even make it sillier. I'm not the first person to cry on social media. I haven't broken any records on that front. I'm not the first person to talk about suicidal ideation on social media. I am not the first, and won't be the last. I'm not the first person to write about it.
Right. Or to vocalize it.
Yeah, to vocalize and write about it in a book that's going to be sold or in a newsletter. I'm not. I'm not doing anything special. And this is all my way of saying that, a lot of people accuse me of being brave. I don't know what that means because I don't have the adult modulator that most people have, that line between one's interiority and exteriority, the very adult choreography of how are you doing? I'm fine. I don't have that. I try and live with as much rawness as possible.
And maybe that's what's special though.
Maybe, but is that really special? Because it's something that all of us can do. And it's something that I hope my page encourages. And in fact, what am I saying? It's something that many people have done on my page, in my comment section,
and are doing
daily as we speak, present continuously, right?
Yes,
quite bravely. And whether it's a woman telling me, about how her mother jumped out of the window, or somebody sending me a long letter in a DM the day their twin brother passed away that day. I'm always very touched. I'm always very touched by the bravery that people have reciprocated when they speak about these very real, difficult topics. And so what I say when I say I'm not important is the Last Supper Project is not about Joseph Awuah-Darko and his journey with euthanasia or bipolar disorder. The Last Supper Project is about human beings indulging in radical curiosity and vulnerability about the way in which we speak about this issue, which affects all of us. This sense of being suicidal, suicidality can change in minutes. It's not a perennial state.
Correct.
And I posted that video about my decision in a moment where I did really want to go there and then, when I meant it, when I said it. And in moments between then and now, I still have felt that way sometimes. But other times I felt other. And so
What's the other feeling?
Oh my God, the other is when I'm on my feet for 9 hours helping my best friend who designs these amazing menus cook for strangers. It's when I am on a run, or even just like a Sunday walk in Amsterdam, and it's really pretty. And I have a sort of faint optimism about being young and in my body and able to hold a man's hand in public in a country that allows me to do that. It's when I'm, those moments of joy when I'm, writing and I find that things are clicking and I'm able to flow. And it's those moments when I'm on an ironic date and I get to indulge in what it means to be in somebody's embrace, And
those moments feel like you don't want to do this?
Those moments feel like, oh, the sun can shine again.
Like hope.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
But the problem with self-awareness at my level, and I'm sure a level that is shared with many other people, is that that the lows are coming just around the corner.
Yes, I saw this post of yours recently. It's like you're almost afraid of your joy.
I am, and I hope and pray, and I've already heard that quite a few bipolar people agree with this. I am terrified of joy. It's such a sad thing to say, actually, but
it makes me sad to hear.
Yeah.
Why?
My hands are even shaking, but I'm like terrified of joy. I'm terrified because it's anyone who's been in a spiral knows that when you enter the sunken place of what it means to be in a depressive episode, right? Because bipolar, the binary of being bipolar is that you go through these high hypomanic peaks and these low hyperdepressive lows. That's the binary of it all, right?
So you can't really trust your joy.
You can't trust your joy. You can't trust yourself. It's not timed. You can't clock it. No one talks about the violence of that limbo. That's what we want to end. That is exactly what, and also no one talks about the capacity for two things being true at the same time. Yes, hypomania looks like 6 Instagram reels a day, looks like being able to write on my Substack, looks like being able to record videos and press share and post. It looks like that. It looks like I'm able to show up on time to visit the farmer's market with my friend as we prepare to serve strangers a 6-course pescatarian menu. That's hypomania. It's productive. It's falsely bubbly sometimes. Because I think sometimes people want you to apologize for your high functioning depression.
Right, like it can't be that bad kind of thing. Yeah, I see you doing well. Right.
Because they think you've always got it. But, I think what I'm trying to do is to shake that up a bit. I don't, wanting to pursue assisted death. My friend Emmanuel got approved after years of being in crisis centers and being on medication. Wow. He's been through it. But when I met him for the first time on my 30th Last Supper, he looked like a perfectly charming, sweet, well-adjusted young man. So at the end of the day, people, I think that there are these violent small-minded misconceptions about the life and lived experience of somebody who is bipolar or who is struggling with a chronic disorder. Or somebody criticizing me for going to my first Paris Fashion Week to support somebody I respect and admire, even though we view life differently. You should apologize for your high-functioning depression. You should apologize for being able to be functional and masking in hypomania. You should apologize for still looking, good, whatever that means, quote unquote. Because a very triggering question an interviewer asks me, like, Joseph, for our listeners, they want to know, you seem like a fairly articulate, bright, brilliant, attractive young man. Why, they'll be thinking, why do you want to end it all? And I calmed down.
Yeah, I was going to say.
And I responded to her.
That's tough.
And I told her, well, if being young, gifted, and black was enough not to want to kill yourself, I guess many people would still be alive. There was silence.
So let me ask you, if some of these people who have these misconceptions about, it sounds like it just doesn't match what they think sickness or illness is supposed to look like. If they saw you on one of your lows, would it match?
It would. I have had, let me try and describe one of my lows without getting emotional. It's okay. I'm happy to go there.
I'm sorry for asking, but I am curious.
Lows look like bed rotting. Bed rotting, not being able to brush your teeth. And that even being an accomplishment when you are in a low. Lows looks like holding in your urine for long hours because you don't want to get up from your bed. I'm going to say it as it is in the most visceral way so people understand what it means. It means self-sabotage. There's a cute guy you like. You've been asked out on a date. You're going through this crippling, neurologically painful spiral. You're in bed. Your duvet is wet from cold sweats. The date is at 7:30 p.m. It's now 7:50. Your date is asking you where you are. The guilt, the ugly guilt, is eating at you, telling you how worthless you are, telling you how inconsiderate you are. You're crying. All you have to do is lift up your finger and respond to your date and say, I can't do it today, or I'm not able to do it, or I'm really not feeling too well. You can't even do that because that's not even entirely the truth. But it's a well-meaning person who has showed up for you and you can't even show up for them. And it's eating at you and eating at you and eating at you. You're spiraling even more. You're then indulging in violent negative self-talk. Does this sound familiar? The self-talk is getting worse. You feel alone. Your worthlessness is amplified. And any redeemable qualities about yourself disappear. It's getting darker and darker. You have left the phone unanswered. You have refused to answer all the 9 missed calls. It's now 9 p.m. You have entered jackass status in their mind. The self-talk gets worse and worse and worse. Your thoughts get darker. Some of us like to reinforce, so we go and watch very sad music. We go and look for videos about people who have ended their lives. We feel entirely isolated because the world is happening around us and spinning. 5 more sentences or 2 more sentences from what I've just described can be a suicide attempt.
Right. It's death. That's what
Right? And this is what it is. What I've described to you is what it is. And it's a helplessness that makes you frustrated because you aren't telling yourself, of course, in this moment that it's neurological and that you inherited it.
Right.
Because I did inherit my bipolarity. It's inherited.
Are you telling yourself that it's your fault
Exactly.
in that moment?
You are blaming yourself beyond all salvageable or any redeemable qualities about yourself. It doesn't matter what your accolades are in that moment. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if somebody said you looked nice that day. Doesn't matter. All you can think about is how horrible, inconsiderate, disgusting, and worthless you are. And you go deeper. Even the bed feels like it's in Salvador Dali mode and it's sinking. You know, it's one of those situations. And if you're lucky on those nights and you aren't prone to self-harming, if you're lucky, you cry yourself until you get a headache and fall asleep. And then wake up tomorrow and the cycle continues. And it takes a support system, antidepressants or drugs, and some sort of self-determination, including the episodes shifting from depressive to manic, for that to happen. You know?
Yeah.
And I'm sure anyone listening to me can, like, understands exactly what I'm saying.
Like, you have to wait for the next harmful thing, which is your mania,
yeah,
to reach in and pull you out of that.
exactly. Or some sort of support system or some sort of drug that numbs you. And so the cycle continues.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
How are you doing today?
Today, as I told you when you met me outside with that very refreshing hug, I'm in the midst of a depressive episode. I woke up with that very familiar spiraling feeling. Just want to take a minute. Sorry.
No, take your time. Please.
Yeah. I woke up in a very depressive episode, which tends to be quite existential and dark. So I called my best friend, Ellie, who has these two lovely dogs, Yuzu and Yoji. They're like gorgeous golden doodles. And she just said, let's come and cut some rosemary from my garden and just come and spend time with my doodles. And this is the thing about the violence of healing while you're surviving. You know? Like, a part of me knows that you'd have been fine if I didn't show up today. But at the same time, the energy, time, resources, effort, strength that you've put into making this happen along with your team, a part of me wanted to honor that. And so the issue with having this invisible disease, and I love how it's called an invisible disease, and having this neurological disability is that the world doesn't really cater to you that way. I'm sick because I don't have a mind that allows me to enjoy being alive.
Right.
And I am crippled. That's the word. That is the word, unfortunately. I am crippled by that. It's sort of like neurological leprosy, Yeah. I'm crippled by that invisible disease. And it's super hard to explain it to somebody who is committed to misunderstanding you.
It's scary for people to hear about or talk about if they can't understand it. Most things people can't understand, scare them.
Yeah. So no, it continues to be a journey, just trying to educate people. And like I said, my story is only a vehicle for other people's stories.
Yeah, I really appreciate you sharing some of that very personal information about your lows, because I do think there's got to be some people out there listening who don't know that maybe they share some of the same qualities, but the way you've described it, maybe they'll be able to recognize it.
Yeah, I hope so. And also sometimes I get caught up in wondering, am I just being negative? Am I just whining? And the answer is no. I think the worst part about coming forward, the thing that I've seen most in my comment section by men, white, black, blue, purple, whatever, by men in general as well, and some women as well, also lots of black women as well. Even though black women have also been the most compassionate and beautiful and kind to me in this process. But two things can be true at the same time. It's a vibe. Is man up, man up, man up, man up. Man up. How we, how the cognitive dissonance of how we say men should be more emotionally intelligent, but also live in a world that doesn't allow them to indulge in their emotions. I could scream on this microphone right now.
That would really hurt our ears.
Yeah, I know. But at how both those two things happen to be true at the same time.
Right. So man up, meaning please stop sharing.
Yeah.
Essentially.
Stop being excuse my French, pussy. Stop being a wimp.
Right.
Stop being an attention-seeking, negative Debbie Downer.
Right. Right.
Get over-
It's bumming us out.
Exactly.
Right.
Lighten up.
I think probably like you're real on social media. You're a real person. Like what's ironic about these people who are saying man up, man up, man up and continue to follow you
and create
Right.
algorithm stimulating comments. But anyway.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And continue to do this is that in an odd way, it's like it bothers them so much because they care about you. Like you're a real person, and to see a real person talking about dying, that's, even though it's on social media, seems more graspable than a fictional character in an indie flick. It's a real person doing it,
Fair.
right? It lets you know how much more possible it is for the rest of us.
That's so true. But I always say I have lived a life stranger than fiction, and I think fiction is always derived from the real.
Yeah.
So I do think that it's very comparable.
Yeah.
You know, it's almost the same thing.
Oh, one feeds the other. I know.
Right?
I know. All the crime documentaries out there, like literally, they use the news that goes on in the world to create the next episode, right?
Exactly.
So, yeah.
You know, so
Yeah.
it's a catch-22, and I think that sometimes people there is a double standard, and I'm okay with it as long as we can just call it what it is. I am okay with the double standard,
Right.
As long as we can just call it that.
Got it.
You know.
There's just one due diligence question that I want to ask you to just give you a chance to like clear it up if it's out there, right? Because things that have come up on like Reddit and places that I've seen. So one is that, you know, there was a point in time where you were owing other artists money. And so all of this is a ruse. It's all a performative ruse. You've moved to the Netherlands to escape having to, you know, pay up what you owe.
Yeah.
What do you say to that?
You know, Ghana has a legal system which works. I've been out of Ghana for a very long time. Everyone knows the family I come from in Ghana. It's not a secret. It's very Googleable. And so, also probably indiscreet to say, but, you know, the political party in power now, my family also has ties to. My uncle belongs to that political party. So I would be, if I played a straight man in Ghana, or was remarkably closeted and remained in the closet, I would have a very comfortable life. Like, you know, in that part of the global south, I would be fine. So escaping that comfort or leaving that comfort.
You're saying like you don't need the money. You don't need to owe anyone money.
I don't need to do that if it was about money. And I don't like, two things can be true at the same time. I'm going to leave it to the legal system to come up with the truth, you know, because I have a lawyer who's working on clearing my name. But I'm pretty confident that it will find that it's entirely fabricated, and that at the same time, you know, I welcome doubt. I welcome
skepticism almost, right?
I welcome doubt, critique, skepticism. I welcome shame, but I no longer serve those masters. I'm fallible in many ways as a person, but that is not one of my flaws. And as far as like dealing with the reality of, I think it would be pretty disgusting and unnecessary if, you know, anybody would use chronic mental disorders as a route to make money. Also, there are other ways to make money.
So, but just like categorically speaking, like you're saying this is just not true.
Yeah, it's not. And I think that's all I can say about that.
Basically, this whole interview, we're speaking about what's happening on Instagram and Substack, which is so interesting. It's like we're here talking about a thing that's over there, but I've never seen social media used as such a diary before. But I see people who are coming to you and saying, I've been thinking about doing this for a while. Like, you are inspiring me. And then I've seen people come and say, I've like fallen in love with you since you've started this, and with your heart and your soul in this tender way that you're talking about these things. And please don't take your life, because, you know, we care about you and we want you to stay. And the community just keeps growing and growing and growing. And so I just wonder, what does this community mean for you in regards to this decision? Like, is there a world in which you take them up on it? You know, you decide not to die because of this.
I love that, you know, I don't believe in the single narrative of perceiving myself as a good person or as a messianic figure or as a thought leader in anything. I'm none of those things. I'm a person. I'm 28. I cherish the fact that despite reasons for skepticism or doubt, that I have been upheld by a community that can see me in every single video. I think that the reason why I continue to build a community is because there's some things you just can't fake when it comes to connecting with people.
That's true. You can't fake real engagement. Somebody told me that a long time ago.
Yeah. And that's why I'm talking about, I think people are dying to feel something real, you know? And that
there's a lot of irony in what you just said there. Yeah.
Yeah. They really are. And yeah, despite the play on words and if I was dying for realness, people want to help. And I think people really understand that they also see a lot of what they're going through, what I'm going through, really and truly. And that if this was about anything other than being real, you know, I don't think they would be there. You know, I really don't think that they would be there.
But aside from people second guessing your authenticity in this, people seem to be begging you to stay on this earth.
And I think that I'm open to the surprise of having my life. Look, it'll be disingenuous to say that my life hasn't been changed by the Last Supper project.
It has to.
And when I opened up on December 9th, I expected to be bullied off social media. See, this wasn't part of the plan. The Last Supper project came as a result of me realizing that people actually showed more compassion than they showed vitriol for me coming forward as somebody who used to post self-help content. You know, the plan was to be meme cultured for ugly crying,
right.
or to be reprimanded for even speaking about something like this, which is largely taboo, and to quietly leave the sphere of social media, which can be at times quite toxic. Right. So I look forward to learning more about what that means for me. Yeah. You know, I'm not uninterested in that. You know, even with all that's going on in my life, and I'm just really humbled by. I'm just really humbled by the willingness people have had to rally around me with every dinner invite. That's what I care about, and to be able to connect at that level. And
that's a lot of love.
Yeah, it is. But I think what people need to remember is that I wasn't alien to love before this project. I mean, yes, this is at a whole new level.
This is a lot of love.
Yeah.
Yes.
You know, this is at a whole new level.
Yeah.
And it's remarkably touching. And I'm always surprised by it. And I always feel undeserving of it in some capacity. But as Bob Marley famously said, you can't run away from yourself.
Right. All of this love does not fix bipolar disorder.
No, it doesn't. I still live with myself and all my imperfection and all my fallibility and my disorder as I am. I still have to face the day. I still have to encounter the guilt I feel about experiencing joy. I still have to encounter all these things.
So to the person who asked you, if there, that question that you hated, if there was a way for you to end your life tomorrow with one shot, would you do it? My question, if there was a way for you to end your suffering from bipolar disorder tomorrow, would you do that?
1,000%. And to say that, saying I can see that saying I wanted to die on December 9th probably was some sort of cry for help as well. It was a cry for help that I meant, but it was still a cry for help.
Right.
And it doesn't mean that I'm not uninterested in that help. And that's what I really want people to understand. It's not death or nothing. All anyone wants to do when they're in my position is just to have a brain that allows them to enjoy being alive. That's really it.
Thanks so much for joining us. If you want to continue to be a part of the Homegoings family, stay in touch at Homegoings.co and subscribe to the Homegoings podcast wherever you listen. Take good care.